This is my custom race car, a project I've been building in my garage for the past 2 years. And as of right now, it has absolutely no brakes. However, that's finally going to change because today we're going to be installing the whole braking system, giving this car the ability to stop and getting it one step closer to its first test drive. But there is one slight issue. I've never built a brake system before. And if I mess up even one small thing, that could mean total brake failure. I don't think I really need to explain how terrible that is. So we have to make sure this is done perfectly. Now there's quite a bit that actually needs to get done. We need to mount the calipers onto the suspension, build a pedal box, and connect everything together with brake lines. Before we get to work though, if you're new here, you might be confused, so let me catch you up to speed. My name is Marcus, and this is my custom race car. A mid-engine, tube chassis race car that I've been building in my garage on a super tight budget. Everything you see is designed and fabricated by myself. Recently, we built a custom fuel cell and got the engine running. Now, although getting this car to run is super fun, getting it to stop is significantly more important. But like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing, so let's start off by understanding how brakes actually work. Every vehicle's brake system consists of 3 pieces: your master cylinder, your brake calipers and rotors, and the lines connecting them. When you push your brake pedal in, it compresses the piston inside the master cylinder, which squeezes brake fluid through the line and into the caliper. The fluid then compresses the caliper, squeezing onto your rotor and bringing the car to a stop. That's the basics on how a brake system actually works, but choosing a perfect setup for my car is where it gets interesting. For my project, I wanted the biggest set of brakes I could find for as cheap as possible. Also, ideally something that's upgradable down the line without too much modification. As you guys might already know, my transmission, axles, and hubs are all Audi. I tried to keep it to one manufacturer so that everything would fit together with very little modification. Keeping to that same mindset, I went with Audi brakes as well, and this is what I picked up. These are the calipers and rotors out of an Audi A6. I pulled the full system for only $250, and for what they are, that price is pretty much unbeatable. Not only are these brakes meant to stop a 4,000-pound car, but with Audi being German, these puppies are designed to be used on the Autobahn. Now, if they can bring the boat of an Audi A6 to a stop at those speeds, I think it'll have no problem stopping this. Now, although I will probably never need an upgrade considering these are the size of my head, these are super easily swapped with the Porsche Cayenne 6-pot brakes. So in the future, if I ever get the funds for that, that's always an option. Now, getting these parts actually mounted to my uprights served to be a much more difficult task than I had originally thought. The rotors were super easy, they just bolted right on, but the calipers did not. Because I had designed these uprights so long ago, I hadn't even decided on what brakes I was going to use. So when I finally ended up bringing a set of calipers home, I quickly realized that they were so large that they barely fit in between the top and bottom control arm. Now, because of this, I needed a crazy amount of precision to know exactly where the calipers would be able to fit without contact, which is why I'm super lucky to have gotten the opportunity to work with Einstar and give their handheld scanner a try. This is the Einstar Rocket, a wireless 3D scanner capable of creating some incredibly detailed models. With this tool, the plan is to scan the caliper and the suspension and then reverse engineer a template that will allow me to grind the uprights to the perfect shape. Now, actually using this tool was super easy, and after about 5 minutes of setup, I could get right to scanning my parts. I set up my brake caliper on the table and started scanning. The Rocket is capable of doing both laser and infrared scanning, but I went with a laser scan because it creates a more detailed model. Now, in terms of detail, Einstar is actually a sub-company of Shining 3D, and Shining 3D is the leading edge of medical 3D scanning equipment. So this is probably about as accurate as it gets. After only about 3 minutes of scanning this caliper, I'd gotten enough data to use this model, so I stopped the scan. Zooming in on the details of the scan, it looked okay, but I was not ready for what happened after I clicked post-process. Holy god damn, dude. So after doing a points cloud, it actually locked this thing in. Like, you can see the detail on that is insane. I mean, I don't even know what to say, man. I'm actually kind of shocked by that. I was not expecting it to be that good. Anyway, holy Jesus. I genuinely couldn't comprehend how well the scan actually turned out. Usually, 3D scanning parts takes quite a bit of prep work, including putting down reference points or using a matte spray, but using the Rocket's marker-free scan setting, I didn't have to do any of that. Another nice thing is that the Rocket can be used completely wirelessly, which means I can move freely around the car without being tied down by cables. That made scanning tight areas like the suspension way easier. And after about 5 minutes, I had the suspension scanned and was able to load it all into Fusion to design my first template. Now, I was always on the fence about actually buying a 3D scanner, but after seeing what this thing can do, I wish I bought one so long ago. The amount of different design opportunities that this opens up is insane. The Rocket is an awesome tool for people looking for precision, and with how user-friendly this is, anyone can pick this thing up and get scanning within minutes. If you've been thinking about picking a scanner up, I highly recommend the Rocket. I'll leave a link to this scanner down below, and with the promo code EINSTARSAS, you can get $50 off of your order. So now that I have a beautiful 3D scan of both of these parts, I'm able to put them into Fusion 360, line them all up, and figure out what the best orientation for the calipers are. Once I had them clocked properly, I designed a little template and then printed it out. So now we have our first 3D piece designed. Now we just gotta take the wheel off and test its fitment on the actual hub.
So it should just click on, just like that.
Look at that. I made these pieces to have a slight interference fit so they'd clip onto the uprights and have a good hold while I traced them. Then it was just time to cut the 1/2 inch steel, which I despise doing. It genuinely takes forever to grind this stuff to shape. Now that the metal is shaped, I was able to bolt the rotor on and test fit the caliper. And when I say this thing was literally perfect, I was actually shocked. God damn, that fits good. This stuff usually takes me so many different attempts to get it right, so the fact that it worked first time was so awesome. So as you can see in here, the pad is perfectly on that wear surface, which means I can weld the bracket on right now as is, and it'll work perfectly. So it's roughly mounted on the actual hub now, but we need to see if it's gonna contact the suspension. Something you never think about is just how heavy your like whole brake setup is, dude. Jesus Christ. Whew. That's gotta be like 100 bajillion pounds. Now the real question is, the real worry about this is if it's gonna contact our upper or lower control arm. And unfortunately, I just have to turn it and find out. And now turn and pray. We're good. Now we're completely good. You can see the bottom right here is about 1/4 inch away, but through control arm swing, the gap's gonna actually grow. So we're actually perfect. Now I printed the mirror template, ground down the next upright, and then got to building the actual brackets that would mount this caliper to the upright. I could have reverse engineered and printed something out for this as well, but I just decided to go with a little paper template because it only took me 2 minutes to draw out. I traced that on metal, cut it out, drilled some holes. New drill bit alert. $30 drill. All right, so we've now got both our holes drilled out to the right size. So now let's bolt it up to our caliper. Good fit. We then got the calipers aligned and threw them in the car. So we have it all together. Oh my God, it's so heavy, dude. I'm gonna put it back in the car. That way I can actually check exactly where the brake pad is gonna line up. I can see the inside of our pad surface. We just wanna make sure that the pad is right on the edge of the rotor. That way we have optimal surface coverage. So as it sits right now, the curve of the pad perfectly fits this inner curve, which means I can weld it in. Now the rear calipers that I'm using are significantly smaller, and so there aren't really fitment issues. Knowing that, I just decided to eyeball it, which actually took me so much longer. Because I didn't want to over grind the part, I had to keep checking, which took way longer than just designing another template. Now that all of our calipers and rotors are mounted, that means our first component of the brakes is done. Before we can run our hard lines, we need our pedals. So let's get to building our pedal box. Before we can just slap some pedals in here, we have some interesting constraints to consider. First of all, our steering rack runs right through where our pedals would go if they were top mounted, which means in our case, they need to pivot on the floor. Another issue with that lack of space is that a brake booster is just not going to fit. This means that all of our brake pressure is going to have to come from our legs. And because I'm not Jay Cutler, I have to utilize the power of leverage, which means the master cylinders need to be mounted as low as possible as well. Finally, with the master cylinders being close to the floor and there being almost no room up front, we actually need a remote style reservoir. This just means that the tank for brake fluid is mounted somewhere else in the car, allowing us to just barely fit these master cylinders up front. So with all these things considered, we can just get to building the box. I previously attempted to actually build a pedal box about a year ago, so I already had pedals made and this master cylinder mounting bracket, so all I really had to do was build a few brackets and attach them all together. The only two things we need now are to somehow mount our pedal to it and then mount this whole thing in the car. I started off by cutting a few brackets, drilling them out, and then welding them to the master cylinder plate. We've got ourselves a pedal. This just has to be welded to our plate here. I drilled a hole in the pedal to attach the master cylinder push rod and then realized the brackets were too short, so I had to do it all over again. And then I needed something to connect the master cylinders to the actual pedal, so I just made this little bracket. I don't think this is gonna work very well, so I'm actually gonna get a Heim joint so that this can get replaced, but for now, this will work good enough. Now you may wonder why I didn't just buy a pedal box instead. And as for every decision I've made on this car, it always comes down to the budget. This pedal box, with all of the random pieces of metal, cost me probably $30. Looking at a Wilwood pedal box that would have cost at least 20 times that, this was the better solution. Also, with my lack of space, it would have been hard to find a pedal box that actually fit. We're just gonna clamp these in and then we can see how it feels. Because I have to move that bracket so far forward, I am a little bit worried that my leg room is gonna be just awful. This is no seat, so obviously I have a bit more room than if I were to have a chair in here. Holy long throw, dude. I definitely do want to lift those pedals up a little bit though, because they're a little bit too angled forward in my opinion. Okay, those feel way better now. That's like a normal ankle resting. Once I was happy with how they felt, I fully welded the pedal assembly in, and now we can finally get started on the last thing, brake lines. It's finally sunny out again, and now that we have the calipers and pedals mounted, it's time to run some brake line. Now there are two different types of brake lines that we're gonna need, hard lines and soft lines. Starting off with the soft lines, because the calipers move through suspension travel, you need a line that is flexible and won't kink or snap through movement. Some race cars use stainless braided lines, but everyday cars use rubber lines, and just for the price difference and ease of use, I'm just gonna gonna use the OEM Audi ones. So a slight issue. This is the back brake line. It's a male end. This is the one I ordered. It's a female end. Hey, I was just wondering if you guys have brake hose.
No, I don't have it available in Canada.
In Canada? Okay. So I went online and ordered it from my beloved Rock Auto. All right, new soft line acquired. So let's thread this guy in. These soft lines need to mount to the chassis. Otherwise, the stress from the wheel can go into the hard lines, and after repetitive stress, that's gonna make your hard lines fail. So we have to do some nice solid mounts. You already know what that means? More brackets. Getting the soft lines to fit into these was a little bit difficult because they had these alignment pins. After drilling a hole, I had to hand file a groove on both sides for the hard line to mount into, but then they press fit right in. Once I got those brackets shaped, I brought them to the car and welded them on. So now that we have all our soft lines mounted, we just need to do our hard lines. Now, there's something that goes in the hard line circuit, and that is this. It's a proportioning valve. Pretty much all this is a valve that lets more or less brake fluid go to your rear brakes. Now, the reason you need this is because if you had equal bias for brakes and you slammed on the brakes, there's so much less weight in the back of your car than there is in the front. And so you're just gonna lock your back tires up. Obviously not great for handling. So you add one of these to make it adjustable, especially in applications like this where it's a very weird weight bias. So I know it's a shock, but it's time to make another bracket. That was pretty tough, to be honest. All right, let's go put it in the car. So now that we have everything in place, we just need to start making some hard lines. I bought this super cheap kit from Amazon. It came with this really ghetto bender, which did the trick, but wasn't very high quality. At least I'm only using it for the whole car, right? This kit also came with the tube flaring tool, which I just decided to try to use without any research. That did not go well. I hope that I take this off and it just looks perfect. You know what? I don't think that's gonna seal, bro. That does not look good at all. Okay, this is what our first attempt looked like. You know what, from the top down, it doesn't look bad, but it's about the side profile, okay? Oh, nice. What am I actually looking at? Buddy, that's flatter than the, I don't even know. After watching a video on how to use the tool, I was able to do a decent flare on my next tube and gain the confidence to get started on the full brake system. The hydraulics for a car are actually pretty simple. The master cylinder is split up into two loops, the front and the rear. Right out of the master cylinder, we're gonna run two lines to the proportioning valve. Holy Jesus, how is it like a ½ inch off, bro? I'm actually so dumb. This one looks pretty good. It's actually like hideous, but hey, if it works, it works. And from there, one line will come out for the rear and two for the front. Because there's only one line running to the rear, we'll need a little splitter block. That just allows the fluid to go to the driver's side and the passenger side, and then we just gotta run the line. Now you might wonder why I have a drill bit inside of my flaring tool. Let's just say I went a little too rough on the tool. Did it break? I broke the tightening mechanism, bro. Completely sheared the tightening pin, bro. All right, we're gonna use this drill bit. This is the problem with buying budget stuff. Sometimes you get lucky and they work good. Other times, you don't. But it's okay, we made it work and started running the line to the rear. Why do I always do this, bro? I'm unscrewing the fitting that's supposed to be on the other side of the tube. Bro. All right, let's run it from the front. All right, we'll tighten that down real good later. Now these first couple tubes I ended up doing fully in the car, but I quickly realized it's better to just mark the tube, take it out, and then bend it outside of the car. Overall, this bender isn't really that bad. I just really suck at using it, so. I understand how to do the bubble joints now. I was doing it wrong before. I was pressing way too hard. Dude, I forgot to put the stupid fitting on again. Oh my God. Now that we've got all of the primary lines ran, it's just the few tubes that come from the proportioning valve and splitting block to the wheels, and then we'll finally be done making brake lines. Dude, there's something wrong with my head. I forgot to put the stupid fitting on again, dude. Just had to redo the entire line, but we're good. All right, we're learning, okay? Put it on, and it's threaded the right way. Now I gotta say, of everything that I've ever done on this car, this is genuinely the least enjoyable thing. For some reason, I just suck at bending brake lines, and it was just so unbelievably miserable. But thankfully, we're done now, and we can get to bleeding it. And so technically, every single hard line is finally done. If I have to remake some, which I might, I'm gonna cry. But the next step is actually just trying to bleed the system. With our clutch master cylinder, we actually had a tank, but with the brake master cylinder, it's a dual inlet, and I don't have a tank for that. We just went to the junkyard. They wanted $45 for a stupid tank. So anyway, we're using a brake fluid tank that has two holes drilled into the bottom, and I'll just order one from Amazon for 20 bucks. So, but that'll get here in a while, so temporary. Okay. You know what? Our DIY master is sealing somehow. Starting off at the furthest caliper, I opened up the bleeders and just sucked some fluid through with a hose just to get the lines filled up. That fluid is green.
What color is it supposed to be?
I don't know.
Not green.
I don't think so. I think like yellow.
After repeating that at every caliper, I went to test the pedal and found our first leak.
It's not properly bled, but the master cylinder should have some feedback. Oh yeah. Oh, there's a lot of fluid squirting out somewhere. One of the fittings on the proportioning valve was leaking. I just tightened it. We've got Salix pumping the pedal. I'm gonna be bleeding the backs. Okay, pump it again, sorry.
After sorting the leak by just tightening the fitting a bit harder, we were able to pump the brakes and bleed it the traditional way, and in no time at all, the car was actually stopping.
Okay, this one doesn't have any air in it.
Now, back when I sourced all these parts, I was under the impression that the original Audi had a 7/8 master cylinder. Knowing that, I decided to buy a 3/4 master cylinder just so that the pedal would be a little easier to press. Unfortunately, the Audi is actually a 1-inch master cylinder, which means my pedal now has a lot of travel before the brakes lock up. I'll be looking into getting a 7/8 master cylinder now, but for the first test drive, this one will work good enough.
And just like that, we have a fully functioning brake system. As you can see, I mean, it stops the car. But unfortunately, we can't really get it up to a good speed to test the proportioning valve or any of that stuff. However, I am happy to say that next video, this car will be driving. There are only a few things that we have left before this car goes on its first test drive. So unfortunately, there isn't a super epic ending to this video, but if you guys enjoyed watching, consider subscribing because like I said, next video, you're gonna be seeing this thing on the actual road. With that being said though, thank you guys for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm really, really excited to see this thing actually driving. I mean, it's been so long and it's genuinely right there. It's gonna be a couple more days of work and it's gonna be on the road. Until then, thank you guys for watching and I'll see y'all in the next one.